Hiya.
They're coming from me from all directions.
How are you? Yeah, good, thanks.
It's going to get you at some stage. Hey. No, I'm a neighbour. Mrs.
How are you?
He brought you.
Who's going to say something?
I'm not letting you up.
Can I say something?
I'm not letting you up. You ramble on.
They will ask when it comes.
I'm so sorry, I haven't got to see you. I'll try.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Lynn's family, may I express a very warm welcome to you all to the chapel as we all come together to grieve and mourn, but also to celebrate the marvellous life of Lynn Clarke. Not only a warm welcome to all of you present here in the chapel, but also to all the family and friends participating in the service over the internet. You may not be here physically, but you are certainly here in the combined spirit of love and affection for Lynn and the family at this very sad time in their lives. Lynn Clarke, devoted husband to Jan for 53 years, loving father to Sandra, Stuart and Darren, father-in-law to Glenn, Annette and Karen, brother to Yvonne, Rosalind and Terry, devoted grandfather to Matt, David, Riley, Reese and Taylor, and much loved great-grandfather of Oscar and Luna. Your presence today, as well as the contact, love and support that so many have given following Lynn's passing, is highly appreciated and valued. There will be an opportunity later on in the service for anyone here today who might like to say a few words or a brief tribute to Lynn and his part in your life. Now, I know that's not a very easy thing to do at such short notice, but if anybody would like to take that opportunity, it will be there later in the service. And of course, everyone is invited to the Bairnsdale RSL Club for afternoon tea and refreshments to spend time together, and in doing so, to honour Lynn's life and its legacies. And my name is David Harrington, and it's certainly an honour and privilege to have been asked to assist the family with today's farewell and celebratory service for Lynn. And it's a very difficult thing, I think, to use the word celebrate at such a sad time, a time when we're all still feeling such sadness and grief. But I think it's also important to try and keep that word in the forefront of our thinking today and in the future, as there are so many wonderful aspects, so many fine legacies, so many personal characteristics and events in Lynn's life for us to value, appreciate and celebrate. Now, when I met with Sandy, Glenn, Matt, Casey and Riley over the last week, I asked them to tell me about Lynn, as I unfortunately did not have the pleasure of knowing him personally, although I have known the Stagg family and my wonderful ex-student over there, Casey, and her family for a long time. So it is a privilege. Excuse me. Anyway, firstly, I asked them to tell me about Lynn's great qualities as a father, husband, grandfather, brother, friend. But I know others in today's service will elaborate in greater detail to these qualities. But please allow me to share with you some of the things, the qualities that they told me. And I list these in no particular order, basically just as they shared them with me. And I'm sure each attribute that I read will arouse within each and every one here and online your own memories and reflections of your life with Lynn. Lynn was a great gardener. He was a hard worker. He was an example setter regarding the importance of hard work. And he was a country boy at heart. He was a good dad. He was a fair dad. A quiet person. He was a soft disciplinarian, apparently, as a father, whereas Jan, I was told, was perhaps a little sterner at times. I did hear the word smack mentioned in there too. I'm not sure whether I heard that or not. I may have. He was a passionate Essendon supporter. And, believe it or not, he could be stubborn in his old age. I did actually ask whether I should mention that when we were talking about it, but they were most adamant that I should. I also asked the family about some of the lessons that they would have learned from Lynn. Again, I'll just share just a few that will also rekindle your reflections and your memories. As already mentioned, the importance of hard work and the rewards that will come from that. And the fact that one doesn't need a lot of possessions to be happy. The family learned lots of gardening knowledge and advice from Lynn. How to make tomato sauce. I believe Stuart is the one within the family who may be the one who mainly inherited the tomato sauce making gene. And finally I asked the family what, amongst many things, that they will miss, most of all now that Lynn is no longer with them in the physical sense at least. And on reflecting on these, I realised that what the family will miss most of all are a mirror of Lynn's qualities and personality. They will miss the simple things. His family visits, family birthdays that he would always attend, often stating that he would have to be back in Bairnsdale in time for dinner. But if he didn't mention this, everyone knew that he was waiting for an invitation to stay. Christmas time they will miss, as he was always there. And they will miss his phone calls, and naturally they will miss the fact that Lynn was the last of the grandparents still with them. Now, isn't that a fine list of high personal attributes painting the picture of a very well-lived life? I know at this time everyone here today is adding to this list in your own heart and minds. And others during the service will continue to paint the wonderful picture of Lynn's life as our service progresses today. I'm now going to call on son-in-law Glenn to share with us a beautiful reading that may well be a message from Lynn to us all. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Welcome to everyone. Before I do the reading, I'll just do a brief reflection myself, because we have been trying to think of things that we'd reflect on with our time of knowing Linton, Buddy, over all the years. And it actually, for me, I wasn't going to, but it popped up during the week. Quite often at night, relaxation time, I'll just sit down and listen to, put the earphones on and watch a bit of YouTube channel, because usually there's nothing on mainstream television. And, you know, a bit of music, a bit of comedy series, a bit of Benny Hill from bygone days, all that stuff. But something popped up. It brings up little suggestive things, and one of them was a pipe band. And I thought, I don't know why that popped up, and then it came to me. The Edinburgh Tattoo. The only time I've ever seen the Edinburgh Tattoo live, because we used to have to watch it with Mum and Dad when we were kids, in black and white, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve I think it was. The only time I've ever seen the Edinburgh Tattoo live was at what is now Marvel Stadium, I think it was Etihad at the time, was when I took Buddy. Just he and I went to, I think Sandy didn't want to. So I dragged him along, or he dragged me along to Etihad Stadium to see the Edinburgh Tattoo live, which is massive, huge audience. But one of the things I remember from it was that they actually included, it's a tune, there's no singing in it, it's by Dire Straits, or Mark Knopfler, and it's called, sometimes called Wild Theme or Local Hero, but in brackets, Coming Home. And it's ironic that the reading I'm reading is The Road Home. It's a beautiful tune if anybody's heard it, but when you hear 100 or more bagpipes strike up and do this tune, it's awesome. And I remember saying that to Buddy at the time, that was awesome. And he gave me that funny smile he gives, and he said, yeah, it was. So that was my little reflection of, and I've been listening to a bit of bagpipe music during the rest of the week, just as a consequence. So this is called The Road Home. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is the journey we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the Master's plan, a step on the road to home. When you're lonely and sick of heart, go to the friends we know and bury your sorrows in doing good deeds. Miss me, but let me go.
Definitely some possible messages formed in that beautiful poem. The word buddy's been mentioned a few times already today. I'm not going to steal Sandy's thunder, but I just love where that name came to be. You'll hear about that very soon, because Sandy's going to come forward to share Lynn's life story.
Right. Glenn's here to prod me in case I make a mistake. Linton Reese Weir Clarke, or Lynn, or Dad, or Buddy as he was called, was born in Charlton in Victoria on the 27th of May 1936 to Aubrey Clarke and Winifred Weir, known as Gurky. They moved to Croydon when he was a young boy, as his father ran a pharmacy there. Lynn went to Caulfield Grammar and he used to travel to school by train. Sometimes he and his friends would stop at one of the stations on their way home and go exploring or swimming. His father had a car, and sometimes in his late teens he would take the car for a spin into the city without his dad knowing. He did national service in his late teens, and before he started work, always saying the national service taught him to work hard and be organised. He grew up with two sisters, Yvonne, the oldest sister, who has just recently passed away, and Rosalind, who was the younger sister, and she's here with us today. He also had a younger brother, Terry, who passed away many years ago. They all used to have fun times together, especially visiting his aunties and uncles in the country. Lynn was especially keen to stay with his cousins in Edsay and later worked on his uncle's farm up there. When he was 20, he worked in a grocery store where he met Mum, and he was smitten. He asked her out to the movies and dances, and soon they became an item. Dad asked Mum several times to marry him, but according to her diary, she had to be sure before she said yes. And also according to her diary, he was the best buddy, and she couldn't begin to tell us how very much she loved him. That's where he got the name Buddy from. He married her in 1960, and they came back from their honeymoon after travelling around Victoria in a caravan and began building their home with the help of Fred Christmas, who became a lifelong friend, and his wife Nola, who I hope is watching today from Queensland. Hi Nola. Sandra was born the oldest daughter, born in 1961 during that time. So we were living in a garage while they constructed the house. Then along came Stuart in 1963 and Darren in 1966. Linton took on fencing and worked from sunrise to sunset, working long, hard days in the rain and the heat. But he always had time on the weekends for a family trip to Buchan or Lakes for a barbecue or a swim, usually with friends and family. There were always trips to Melbourne when we were young to visit his parents and his sister Rosalind and her boys Peter, Philip and Russell, who are also here with us today. We often went to the drive-in and took Jen's mum, Granna, sitting in the back seat with the kids. She always brought along the tomato sandwiches and a thermos of tea. There would always be someone dropping in for a cuppa at our house in Taylor Street. Mum had 6 brothers and a sister and lots of nieces and nephews that lived locally one time or another. They all had lots of lovely friends. Some of them are, I'm sure, all here today. I can see a few of them. Lynn would join him for a cuppa and then he'd be outside in his massive garden, which he took great pride in. He loved to go camping and fishing with the boys and Roger and James up the Mitta. One day I said to him, "Why can't I go along?" And he said, "Because there's no toilets." Lynn had several different jobs after he gave away fencing. He worked for Darlson's, Philip Morris and Lustral as a salesman. Lynn had a special product from Lustral that he used to recommend to everyone with any ailment, from a mozzie bite to shingles, and we named it Buddy's Medicine. There are some family holidays and great Christmases when fencing business was good. On one trip to the Gold Coast in about 1973, we drove up in Lynn's pride and joy, the Kingswood, and ended up with a broken windscreen and a hole in the radiator. It ended up being a big trip with 3 little kids in the back seat. Me in the middle to stop the boys fighting. As we grew older and flew the coop, he and Mum would love to go on their weekends away. Sometimes they'd have a sneaky weekend, or they'd be away with Roger and Liz at Echuca or Albury, or to the Merimbula Jazz Festival with Rosalind and Colin. They'd laughed a lot, played pokies and shopped. Dad was always looking for the cheapest petrol and not spending much time in the poker machines, but he always had a good time and he was always ready for the next weekend away. When the grandchildren were born, there was always trips to Maffra and Sale to see our kids, Matt, David and Riley, and long car journeys to the outer suburbs of Brisbane and later Kyogle to see Darren and Karen's children, Reese and Taylor, and a couple of times to visit Jan's brother Ike and Sally in Queensland too. There were trips to Melbourne to see Annie after her recovery from transplant surgery, and trips to Geelong and Clunes to stay with Stuart and Annie and visit Kevin, Rosalind and Colin. They even did a big trip to Perth to visit his sister Eva and her family, and Cheerios to them too, watching from Perth. In 2014, the love of his life, Jan, passed away from cancer, and he fell into depression, but with some help from counselling and his family, he came out of it and maintained his home until 2018, when some ill health forced him into aged care at Opal, Bairnsdale Gardens, just for respite. He was happy that someone was around and he was taken care of again, so he made the move there. He had the freedom to travel and visit his family and his newest great-grandson, Oscar. The management at Bairnsdale Gardens helped him create a beautiful, manageable veggie garden, and he was always happy to share his garden produce with the kitchen to make sure that they were always feeding him properly. He loved to be fed. And he made friends with some of the staff, and I'm sure a few of the chefs too. Sometimes he would buy his own Scotch fillet steak at the butcher and ask the butcher to cook for him. Well done, of course. They even arranged for him to have clarinet lessons, which is something he always wanted to do. That's his clarinet there. Up until June, he was in pretty good health, but from then his legs became a problem and he was bedridden and gave up on life, refusing to eat and take his medication. His family were all able to visit him, and he got to meet his latest great-grandchild, Luna. But after some weeks, his body, as stubborn as it was, gave up, and on Sunday the 16th of October he passed away to be reunited with his loving wife Jan. My memories in the last few years will be his visiting days with us, him playing us tunes on the clarinet, even though they weren't too good. But he tried really hard. Telling me over the phone that it had not rained in Bairnsdale or Bairnsdale, even though it was pouring so, and how Bairnsdale always had the cheapest petrol. Our family thanks everyone for coming here today, especially those who have travelled, and for the cards and the flowers and messages and hugs. We appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy, very much for those reflections and life events. Talking of reflections, daughter-in-law Annette is going to come forward to share with some of her thoughts and reflections on Lynn.
Just wanted to say thank you to everyone from the depth of our hearts for being here today. Linton, Lynn, Buddy, Dad, lived a long and productive life. There are many things he loved to do, including taking long drives with the family in one of many cherished, freshly washed, and maintained cars. Everyone in the car ready to go, and you can bet on it, Lynn will give every sparkling car window just one more clean before heading off. His garden was a passion and joy to him. Lynn would spend hours weeding, planting, watering, and harvesting. And boy, how he would spend hours telling anyone who would listen about every detail, including comprehensive weather reports. We all benefited by the fruits of his labor with an amazing assortment of yummy veggies. Ever looking for Lynn? You could always find him out the back. His backyard was his oasis. The garden, the fruit trees, his garage and shed, the cats and the barbecues. He loved it. Lynn enjoyed family holidays and gathering. He loved his food and was spoiled with Jan's cooking. His favorite feast, of course, included prawns, crayfish, and oysters. He'd drive all the way to Marimbula to buy. Lynn loved to listen to records and even took his stereo with him to Oppo, where the sounds of Benny Goodman and Neil Diamond emanated from his room. He loved the sound of the clarinet and made a lifelong dream to learn to play it come true when at Oppo. And we're sure he drove his neighbors a little batty, but they were always very encouraging. Lynn enjoyed spending time in the bush. He'd take his boys, and occasionally the nephews, the city slickers, camping and fishing, and taught them how to drive, build fences, burn off, boulder rolling, collect firewood, and cook trout on the campfire. His favorite sitting places were on the back porch or the front porch, or in his comfy chair in the lounge, always with a cuppa in hand. He enjoyed visits from the family, the neighbors, the kids, and the grandkids. He loved Christmas holidays and his hand-picked Christmas trees and roasting chestnuts in front of an open fire. But most of all, Lynn's favorite thing in the whole world was to just sit and hold hands with his beloved Jan. Rest in peace, buddy.
Thank you, Annette and Stuart, for that. Grandson Reese is now going to share some memories on behalf of himself and sister Taylor, who is currently in the middle of exams in Brisbane.
G'day all. I'll be speaking for myself and Taylor. We'll see what I can do here. So, Buddy was a buddy to us. He was always just a stoic figure in our lives. He was always there for us. He never really intervened, which was always kind of surprising. You know, we'd be getting up to mischief and he'd just be watching and laughing. I think the key role for him was keeping us and Grandma out of trouble, because she would try and spoil us with as much as she could. And he was kind of the level head that kept it all together. Taylor and I would like to reflect on some special memories. Eating peas in his garden, both of us, just a golden memory for us. But the most precious thing that he and Jan gave us was their time and patience. I think that was just the key for them. They never sat and, didn't pay attention. They always were with us. They were always, they weren't watching TV or anything. And I think the thing I miss most of all is having that patience for them. Where we would tucker them out on the phone and they'd have to go and watch TV rather than us trying to go and get away to do something else. Just have a quick look here. Taylor wants to point out that at her school holidays, she always made mention to her friends at school and how much she loved her school holidays because her grandparents were visiting. I never thought that far ahead as a kid, but I know those holidays were very special for me too. Taking us on long walks, always getting ice cream, looking after Grandma with her arthritis. Some of those journeys must have been long with me and Taylor skipping and running around and collecting, berries and bees and whatever. And just taking us to get ice cream and lollies, always up to the corner shop. Crazy trips to crazy Clarke's to get $2 crap that we'd spend all afternoon building and breaking. Letting us play on our scooters, watching us play on our scooters. I don't know how they did that. As a father myself now, I can hope that I have the patience and love to just watch instead of trying to get involved. That's about about all I have. Just their love and patience will always be with us for the rest of our lives. Thanks for coming.
Reece, I think you've just reinforced or mirrored the joy that Lynn got from the simple things in life. Thank you. I mentioned earlier at the start of the service there was an opportunity for anybody else who might like to briefly say a few words or a memory. If you do so, if you wish to do that, now's the time. Come forward, please. Anybody else come? If there is anybody, just come up now, and that would be terrific. Come forward if you like.
Hello everybody, I'm Shirley Stowe, and my husband Trevor Stowe had Stowe's News Agency on the highway for many years, and Lynn was one of our paper boys, our senior paper boy, on his bike, riding down every morning to do the round. Well, one time Trevor heard there was a television show that was doing a story about jobs that weren't available anymore, weren't doing it. Paper boys was one of them, because they became non-existent when paper apps and all that sort of thing started. But Lynn got the job. He used to be the cigarette man, and so he knew Trevor, and when he retired he met Trevor one day and said, oh, you know, have you got any work? So that's how he began his time as a paper boy. Anyway, Trevor got in touch with the TV channel, and they came up and did a story on Lynn. They went to his home, you know, and got up in the morning. He used to be down at the shop at 5 o'clock, and followed him down the street, you know, and went around and did the paper round with him. And he was on this TV program, I can't remember what it was. And then another time, Lynn came to the shop, 5 o'clock in the morning. He was a bit down in the dumps. Trevor thought, said, oh, what's the matter, Lynn? He said, oh, my wife passed away last night. Trevor is never lost for words, but he was lost for words that morning. Oh, Lynn. But no, he came down and did the paper round, and that's the sort of guy Lynn was. And we have many happy memories of our paper boy, Lynn. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm David Florence in Melbourne and Mitch Florence in Bairnsdale. I mentioned to Sandy and Stewie that I'd like to say something, and they asked me not to rattle on as I sometimes can. So I guess I can promise not to do that. I was lying in bed a couple of weeks ago just thinking of a few things about Lynn and tossing around in the night, and I remember my first meeting with him, and I could be wrong, I thought it was Ford's that he worked in as a counter boy, but I might have been wrong, I don't know. But anyway, I was pretty young at the time. I was probably only about 13 or 14 or something, and I was earning $10 a week helping clean the high school, and I'd earned a bit of money and I wanted to buy something, and Jan said to me, go down to Ford's or Delson's, whichever it was, and ask for Linton, and he'll look after you, and you can buy something from him, probably give you a discount as well. And thought, Linton? That's a funny name. I don't think there'd be any people in Bairnsdale called Linton, so anyway I went down there and asked for him, and yes, he did look after me, and I came out of there with a red zip-up jacket on, feeling very flash, and I think I got a discount on that as well. So that was my first meeting of Lynn. She picked a pretty good-looking bloke, I thought. He was a very smart-looking guy with a good head of hair, and thought, gee, Jan, you've done pretty well here. After that, I learned that he was certainly a city boy who came to the country, and he must have had that country feeling in him for a long time. He'd been living in North Balwyn, and I think the way he lived his 86 and a half years, Stuart, I think he got a lot more out of that than his 86 and a half years, mainly because he lived 90% of his life, and this is not a criticism, in slow motion. And the way I saw that, Susie and I lived quite close to Jan and Lynn when we were first married. And, you know, I remember I'd come across there, we used to walk across there to sometimes have breakfast with them, and there's a story about breakfast in a minute, and it doesn't go long. Anyway, I walked across there, and of course not to the front door. This was after the house was built, because talking about living life in a measured way, most of us these days, young people first married, will scoot out and get a big mortgage and get straight into the most modern house you could have. Lynn chose to do it in a very measured way and built a garage at the back, which became a small house. And I've got some photographs. I didn't bring them to show today, but they had a little shower and a kitchenette and a plastic bath, and I've got pictures of Sandy in the nude in the bath. She was only this big then. So I've got some slides at home. I'll show you one day, Sandy. And then they built the house, and I remember going up there and helping paint stuff called creosote on the stumps to put in the ground, and Lynn, of course, got out and carefully made sure that they were all in a very straight line and did that all in a very measured way. And probably a lot of the family would remember that when they put the shadow line on the outside of the house, and I think my brother Harry said, when are you going to paint that? Lynn said he'd let it cure for, I don't know, I think it was probably about 10 years. Might have been even longer than that, but it was probably the way to go, because the painters, we just drove past there, and funnily enough, there's a fencing contractor up there, doing a job on the house up there. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying, I told you I wasn't going to rattle on. I would walk across to his place, knock on the front door, and Jan would say, well, Lynn's out the back. And I'd walk around there and I'd say, g'day, Lynn. Pause. G'day, Dave. Longer pause. Nice day. Yeah, Lynn. Longer pause. Do you want a cup of tea? Always had a cup of tea. So, and I think we could take a page out of Lynn's book in some of the hectic lives that we lead, and see that he did live life in a very careful and measured way. He taught me to drive in his old Chevy with 3 on the tree, and I think I crunched the gears a heck of a lot, and he probably had me driving around some of the streets up in, I hope there are any police here today, because I was probably only about 16 at the time, without a learner plate on. But yes, he started me off driving as well. The interesting thing about breakfast was, and look, it may not interest you, but I thought of this and it was very funny at the time. Might not be funny now. Susie and I decided one day we'd go, I think it was on a Saturday night, up to a car rally that was way out of Bairnsdale. It was a couple of hours drive away, and we drove up to watch the cars roaring through the hills, and we left there probably at about 11 o'clock at night, and we drove back home, and we were living just round the corner, and we hopped into bed and we went to sleep, and we snuggled up and we woke up. Didn't have any mobile phones, didn't have anything then, but looked at the clock, and I think it was probably about 7:30 in the morning, and we woke up and we went outside. It was an overcast day, and we thought, oh, it's early in the morning, we might just drop over and have a cup of tea at Jan and Lynn's place. Anyway, we walked over and we got into the house and we sat down in the kitchen, and the sauces were out, and the plates, and the Wheaties, and the cornflakes, and the jam, and bread ready to put in the toaster. Anyway, I was sitting there for a little while, and sitting there a little bit longer and thinking, why the hell aren't they getting into breakfast? Turned out it was 7:30 at night. We'd only slept part way through the night and got up and we thought it was morning. So I think we said to them, is it morning? I said, no, that's Jan just gets this ready every night, ready for the next day. So, and I do say that Lynn was surely a good choice for Jan, but Jan also looked after Lynn very well. The other story that I remember, and I've thought of it many times over the year, was when I was 15, I passed an exam to go down and to be a telephone technician, and I was probably the worst technician in the whole PMG because I wasn't that good at it. But I had to go down to Melbourne for the training course, and so Lynn, being a Melbourne boy, went round to his place and said, okay, how do I get to a boarding house that I've been put into in Hawthorn? So I don't remember exactly, but he would have pulled out a pristine Melways map, probably out of a container somewhere that was kept in as new condition, and he looked up everything for me. He said, okay, so you get on the train at Bairnsdale, you head down and you'll finish at platform 1 at Flinders Street. You'll cross to platform 6. You'll catch an Alamein line train, and it was probably in the days of the old Red Rattlers, and I think I still have echoing in my head, Alamein line train leaving platform 6, stand clear please. So I got on the train and he told me that I then had to go out to Camberwell. And funnily enough, I live in Camberwell now. So I walk past that station almost every day. But at 15 years of age and very, I'd only been to Melbourne a couple of times on a school trip, and when I was about 7 years old with a little flag in my hand waving when the Queen went past the corner of Flinders Street and one of the other streets, get the name of it now. That's about the only twice I'd been to Melbourne, so I wasn't quite sure where I was going, but I was following all the instructions. So I got off at Camberwell Station, walked up the ramp, and he said, go up to Burke Road, catch a tram, and ask them to take you to stop 45. It'll be a short walk from there, and that'll be the street that you live in. So I walked up and across the road, and I see a tram coming, a number 72 tram. That's the one he said to catch. So I jump on the tram. And luckily, there's a conductor on there. We don't have those now. But I said to him, can I have a ticket, and I need to go to stop 45. And he said, you're going the wrong way. Now, Lynn, you did not tell me the tram's going both directions. How naive was I? I thought the tram just went straight up the middle. But no, they went both ways. So he said, if you stay on the tram, you can go right up to Cotham Road, stay on the tram and go back, and then you'll get to stop 45. So that's what I did, and I ended up at the right spot. We mentioned before that Lynn was a city boy but wanted to be a country boy, and after he'd done some work behind the counter, I don't know what order this goes in, but he was a fencing contractor at one stage, and he built many fences out west of Bairnsdale, took down the old fences, built the new ones, and when I was on leave, and it probably wasn't the best time for me to do it because I was probably drinking too much beer then, and I was a bit overweight and I wasn't very fit, but I went out and helped Lynn and his sidekick, which was another Freddie that Freddie Freer, who he worked with. And they built fences, and they worked very hard and long, and puffed me out, that's for sure. But they knocked off at lunchtime to have their lunch and listen to the ABC, and it was probably Blue Hills, I think, which had been going for 50 or 60 years probably, but they had to listen to that and sit with a cup of tea. But the fences that they built, and in Lynn wanting to be so precise about everything, I reckon you could shoot a rifle along them and you would not hit anything because they were dead straight. And there'd be a lot of fences out there that will certainly outlast Lynn for many, many years. And I don't know how many how old kangaroos live to be, but if there are any old ones out there from when he built them, and they're bouncing around the paddocks now, when they get to one of those fences, I'm sure they'd be thinking, that bloody Lynn Clarke. He certainly had a go, and I remember, and it was only a brief one, but I remember that he decided that he was going to go into growing passion fruits. Do you remember this, Stu, about this? Yes. So, from what I remember, and I only saw a little bit of it, but he leased a section of land from a farmer, and he built these fabulous timber stays with wires through them and planted all the passion fruit, and it was a venture that was going to make him a lot of money. It didn't quite go that well, but he had a go. So, haven't gone on for too long, have I, Sandy? Yeah. You want me to wrap up now? I could see you giving me the wrap-up signal there, actually. So, Linton Reese Clarke, you made my sister very happy. And she looked after you. Rest in peace, Lynn.
Thank you for those brief reflections. And those, one more. Oh, good, one more. Those claps that you just gave are not only for everybody who's got up and spoken today.
Oh, there's something up there.
Right. I'm going to be the shortest one in the talk. I'm not going to Linton was my brother, and I loved him dearly. And what did I want to say? Oh yeah, when we were little, Mum used to always say, "Look after your little sister. Oh, do I have to have her tag along with me?" And I did. I tagged along with him, and he hated it. He had his friends with him. Oh, my sister has to come with me. And we used to go tadpoling, and we'd catch the tadpoles, bring them home, and watch them grow into frogs. And that was our pastime, and that's about all I want to say, because I just wanted to tell you just how close we were, my brother and I, and I'll miss him dearly. Thank you.
Sounds like there might be some other stories coming at the RSL. About his heart stopping? I don't know. Okay, thank you for everybody. Let's now take a few moments to continue to celebrate Lynn's long and fruitful life, enjoying a wonderful collection of photos. Literally, a snapshot of the marvellous and fruitful life we are celebrating today. Accompanied by two beautiful songs, Fields of Gold by Eva Cassidy, and also Can't Cry Hard Enough by the Robertson Brothers, which I believe possibly may have been Lynn's favourite band.
barley. You can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold. So she took her love for to gaze a while among the fields of barley. In his arms she fell as her hair came down among the fields of gold. Will you stay with me? Will you be my love among the fields of barley? And you can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold. I never made promises lightly. There have been some that I've broken, but I swear in the days still left, we'll walk in fields of gold. We'll walk in fields of gold. No, I can't cry hard. for the first time, I would let go of you like a child let go of his kind. There it goes, up in the sky. There it goes, beyond the clouds, for no reason why. I can't cry hard enough. No, I can't cry hard enough for you to hear me now. Look back in there and see you standing there. Oh, when all that remains is just an empty chair. Now that you're gone, I can't cry hard enough. No, I can't cry hard enough for you to hear me now. There it goes, up in the sky. There it goes, beyond the clouds, for no reason why. I can't cry hard enough. No, I can't cry hard enough for you to hear me now. For no reason why I can't cry hard enough. No, I can't cry hard enough for you to hear me
Well, thank you for putting together, Sandy and others, such a wonderful collection of family photos. Just terrific, with such beautiful music too, of course. Grandson Matthew, he's going to share with us a very meaningful reading that again may well be a direct message from Lynn to us all. It's called I'm Free.
Thanks everyone, and it was funny hearing Mum mention the old Buddy's medicine. As I think back on it, it was the ailment for everything, and I'm quite certain that we still have a bottle of it in our cupboard, and I'm sure Oscar will know all about Buddy's medicine in the future. It was the ailment for all evils. So the reading is I'm free. Don't grieve for me now, for I am free. I'm following the path set out for me. I've heard the call, and I've left it all. I could not stay another day, to laugh, to love, to work, to play. Tasks left undone must stay that way. I've found the peace at the close of day. If my parting has left a void, then fill it with remembered joy. A friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. I guess these things I too will miss. Be not burdened with times of sorrow. I wish the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's been full, I've savoured much. Good friends, good times, a loved one's touch. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief. Don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift up your hearts and peace to thee, for I at last am now set free. Thank you.
beautiful words and a message, for sure. Family and friends, could you please stand? I realise that this time of parting is the most difficult. But before we do so, however, let us be thankful and grateful for Lynn's life, remembering the intangibles, the impact of his life on yours. You may bring to mind his smile, his sense of humour, his great personality, and the way he lived his life. Remember the significant moments and the fun times that you had with him. You will remember his life by the memories that he leaves behind. But most of all, remember him with love as long as you live. And those of us who feel deeply will grieve deeply. No philosophy or religion ever taught us can prevent this wholly natural reaction from the human heart. We come into this world with nothing and we leave with nothing. But the memories we leave behind with our family and friends are a mark of our life's success. Nothing can detract from the joy and friendship you shared with him. Nothing can possibly affect the happiness and depth of experience that he himself knew. So tenderly, lovingly and reverently, we will commit Lynn's spirit and body to a more peaceful place and to nature's keeping. Lynn, we give thanks for your life and for your lifetime of love, friendship and your memories. We now say farewell and may you rest in peace. Thank you for the good times. Thank you for your hard work, for your love and laughter. Thank you for being you. You have filled your niche and accomplished your tasks, and you leave this world a better place than you found it. So with great respect, we bid you a final farewell. Continue your journey with the love of everyone here. Be reunited with Jan, family and friends gone before you. You will live on in the hearts of everyone you touched and those you nurtured while you lived on this earth. And for all your family and friends, holding the thoughts and memories of Lynn in your hearts means for you that death does end a life, but not a relationship, and it does not end a lifetime of memories. So Lynn Clarke, on behalf of your much-loved family and friends, rest in peace forever. Family and friends, as you know, Lynn will be taken to the crematorium in Traralgon, so the coffin will be remaining in the chapel. You are invited as you leave the chapel, as we have reached the end of the celebratory service, to come forward in a moment and place a sprig of rosemary on the coffin as a final gesture of respect and love. But before that, great-grandchildren Oscar and Luna will come forward first to say goodbye to Lynn. They're going to place their handprints, I believe, and a picture on the coffin flowers. And as we leave the chapel today, let's enjoy the song "The Carnival is Over" by the Seekers. And I reckon, feel free to sing, as I reckon many of you will know many of the words. Thank you, everyone.
My Thank you.